Last night I watched the new Netflix series, The Manhattan Alien Abduction, and I have very mixed feelings about it and have a lot to say, so I'm going to try and collect my thoughts. Hopefully I'm not too all over the place. My first impressions as I was watching it were that I didn't like this. As someone who's been researching UFOs and aliens for nearly 2 decades, if this is your first introduction to the world of UFOs and aliens, then I'm sorry. This is not a good place to start. The way this was presented and the people that were involved felt like this had an ulterior motive. When we have so many people at the moment coming out with credibility, such as Stanford scientists and military whistleblowers, Harvard lawyers, telling us this stuff, when we have people who look of questionable character, to put it nicely, claiming they were abducted and kind of fighting amongst themselves about the idea, it doesn't help the case. It doesn't help our case. But then I also thought, well, the story is being taken seriously. No one's being mocked. The people in the story definitely seem like their credibility could easily be destroyed and questioned. But the tone of the show is taking it seriously. And it's on Netflix, which is interesting. I don't think you would see something like this on Netflix in the top 10 trending shows, by the way. I don't think you would have seen something like that 3-5 years ago. So I found that interesting. Maybe there's a reason why. Is this a slow first attempt at getting most people desensitized to what's coming? But then I kind of fall back to the fact that if that's what they really wanted to do, we have so many more people with much higher credibility saying things that are equally as crazy and sometimes even more crazy. My thoughts on the story itself, yeah, it could be true. I mean, I believe in alien abductions, so I don't see why her story couldn't be true. There are allegedly multiple witnesses. So, you know, if you want to talk about this being a scam or a lie, you're now talking about a big group of people conspiring together to create this story. And I was thinking that, like, if you were going to lie about this, right? Like, let's just think about this. So let's assume that this is entirely fake. Now, this lady, her name's Linda Napolitano, and this happened in 1989. So let's just say you're Linda Napolitano in 1989 and you're just sitting in your room like I am now, and you thought, I'm going to fake an alien abduction. I'm going to lie. I'm going to convince a whole bunch of other people to lie with me, and that's what I'm going to do. Do you think it's possible for something so small with no basis in reality to make its way to a top trending Netflix series nearly 30 years later? Like, that is crazy. Like, if that is true, then that's crazy. Like, if I just sat here and just came up with something right now, and in 30 years it's a Netflix documentary, like, that is crazy. If that is true, if that's what happened, that is crazy. Like, the story's got legs. Like I said, the people involved could easily be discredited, and they've painted the show paints them in a light that makes them look unfavorable. So the individual characters in the story definitely come with a lot of questions, and I feel like that's why I didn't like it, because, you know, I believe that this subject is real. I believe this stuff happens and has happened for a long time. And the subject is already so taboo, although not as much as it once was, to be fair. So to have a story painted in this kind of light on such a big platform like Netflix, I feel like it really doesn't help us. It doesn't help the narrative get anywhere. Now, I feel like some people who have an open mind might watch it and see some truth in it. But I feel like a lot of people who watch it, who already have their preconceived ideas of thinking that it's all bullshit, will so easily be able to find their confirmation bias and just write it off as bullshit, which is unfortunate. In this field, when we're talking about UFOs and aliens, I think it's important to never believe anything wholeheartedly. And likewise, you should never dismiss anything wholeheartedly. My kind of approach with this stuff is I like to have an open mind and listen to everything. And I kind of put it in my back pocket with some level of credibility. Like I might hear a story and maybe I don't believe it straight away, but I'll put it in my back pocket, and then maybe in a year or two, I'll hear another story and I go, oh, that kind of has the same details as that story. So now that story kind of gets a little bit more credibility. And I find that over years and years of researching this stuff, you kind of get a general consensus of what could be true and what sort of seems a little bit more unlikely. The one thing about this story that made me feel a bit unsure was when Carol showed the difference between Linda under hypnosis and all of Bud Hopkins' other patients under hypnosis. There was a big difference. And to be fair, she was talking very clearly, very coherently, didn't really seem under much stress. But again, you know, this is the internet, this is the online world. People deliver things in the way that they want you to see them. So, and this show hasn't been delivered objectively. It's been delivered with definitely some kind of idea. There's a lot of theatrics, a lot of dramatization, you know, big sound design. And I think all of that stuff just takes away from the seriousness and the validity of the topic. It kind of makes it just seem like we're back watching the X-Files and this is all just some kind of like spooky show that isn't to be taken seriously. And maybe these two people aren't to be taken seriously, but it muddies the waters. It muddies the waters of something that is very serious, of something that high-level military intelligence are trying to tell us that this is real. If this is your first introduction to the world of UFOs and aliens, there is another Netflix special dropping in 5 days called Investigation Alien by George Knapp. That is going to be a much better place for you to start. I think when it comes to this topic, having all the sound design and the cinematic shots, as much as I love and appreciate that as a film student, I feel like sometimes it can take away from the seriousness of the story that's being told. If I had to say yes or no, do I believe Linda? I'm going to say yes, based on the fact that sticking to a lie for nearly 30 years that's essentially given no gain to her life makes no sense. So I do believe her. Do I feel like she could be easily discredited? 100%. And do I feel like they could have found people with way more credibility to tell you this story? Absolutely. There is so much more better evidence and testimony out there that you can find with a little bit of research. It's not hard to find. This stuff is out there. And this topic now more than ever has so much momentum. I think it's no coincidence that we're getting these shows on Netflix right now. We're getting these whistleblowers coming out. We're getting these hearings in front of Congress. Like there is a snowball that is rolling fast down the hill and getting bigger and bigger. So that is my thoughts on the Manhattan Alien Abduction series that just aired on Netflix. I'd love to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments. Subscribe while you're there. I'm also going to have a link to my Discord community in the description of this video. If you use Discord, I'd love for you to join and continue the conversation there as well.